Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. I am out in the garden today on a very chilly, gray January day. It is January 17th, and of course, here in Zone 6A, Massachusetts, nothing is growing outside right now. But I'm in my vegetable allotment, which is fallow right now. There's nothing growing, just resting. But I have started some seeds using a technique called winter sowing. And there's a lot of information about winter sowing online, but basically what it is, it's a way to start seeds in a controlled environment, but to do it outside and kind of let nature dictate when things are going to germinate and sprout and start growing. So it gives you the control of starting seeds not in a garden bed, but in another place where you can transplant them to wherever you want later. And it also gives you a little bit of a greenhouse effect because you're starting them inside plastic containers. Many people use milk cartons. That's actually the most common way of doing this. So it gives you those advantages, but you don't have to fuss with grow lights and starting things inside in a sterile seed medium and then hardening them off and taking them outside. So it's much easier. It doesn't work for everything, of course. It doesn't work for most vegetables because those are not, many vegetables that we grow are not cold tolerant. So it's not going to work very well for tomatoes or peppers, melons, squashes, things like that. It does work for many types of flowers that people grow, annual flowers or perennial flowers that people grow in their garden that either require a period of cold to germinate or that are just cold tolerant. So many North American wildflowers are very easy to start this way. So I have started 4 things. I've started lupines. Those are native to the Northeast and they are cold tolerant and they're early. They come in the spring. I started Echinacea, another North American native wildflower. And actually I did some Echinacea last year with success, and I transplanted them into this bed where hopefully they'll come up again this year. So I have lupines, Echinacea, chamomile, and this is a little bit of a experiment. I've never tried chamomile, but I have heard that you can sow it in the fall and then wait for it to come up in the spring. So that should work for this method. And the last thing I sowed is a plant called Monarda, or bee balm, it's also known as. And that's another native plant to the Northeast. So it can handle the cold of the early spring when it comes up, when it decides to come up. And all you do is you put potting soil into a container. Like I said, many people use milk containers because they have they're skinny but deep, so that works. I've used these salad green containers, and I saved them last year, and I'm reusing them. They're about that deep. You fill it halfway up with potting soil or any old garden soil. Then you sow the seeds, and then you sprinkle more soil on top, and you water them. You water them very well once, and then you leave them. You basically leave them alone. They can get covered in snow. They can, sub-zero temperatures. You just leave them. And then in the spring, when things start warming up, you start checking. And when they germinate, then you're going to monitor them for water. So once they've germinated and they start growing, then you're going to check them every few days to make sure the soil isn't drying out. And then you're going to eventually, when it gets hotter, when the weather turns warmer, you tent these. You open the tops of the boxes so that they get ventilation, and they don't, get overheated. So that for us. That's going to be like all the way in May, and then you can put the tops back on at night when it's still cold, and then you transplant them into the garden. So that's winter sowing, and there's a lot more information online. If you just Google winter sowing, there's a Facebook group. There's a bunch of other information, but that's what we're doing in January at the vegetable garden, and we'll see how it works.